Two players at opposite ends of the league table at the moment. Scott Gillespie firmly top, 3 from 3 so far. Ross Dunn in 5th place, only 1 win out of his first 3 matches. Needs to find a second one here if he wants to have any aspirations of qualifying. Looks like it's going to be 4 from 5 in Group 6. Ray Cook unfortunately struggling to trouble the scorers, rooted to the bottom of the table. Scott Gillespie already qualified. And Christy Caulfield, Carl Morris, Ben Doyle and Ross Dunn fighting out for the remaining 3 places.
Quite low-key, a very tasty group this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one that sort of slipped under the radar. We talked about a couple of other groups of death, but apart from the one qualifier who's probably not going to get through, any of the others are in with a shout.
Ross Dunn with his nickname strapped across the back of his shirt. I'd love to know the backstory that led him to just guessing funny written on the back of his shirt. I know he and plenty of the Welsh boys love to have some serious fun at each other's expense, and I suspect that has something to do with that. Ross Dunn, a member of the Welsh team that won a title at the World Championships this year. They took down the World Team Shootout.
They looked pretty good in the process, didn't they? They had a lot of team spirit going, played some good stuff. Tough ask this, because Scott Gillespie, not only has he been in good form today, but he's not really under any pressure here, because he's already locked up the qualification. It's looking in good shape to be number 1. Obviously he'll want to round out his day with a 4th win from 4.
Yeah, and he definitely will want to finish the group top now he's there. There's still that sense of motivation to play well, but without the pressure of, you know, knowing that losing's the end of the world, all of a sudden you really quite fancy Scott to go quite well here, because he's playing well and he's got something to play for, but he's also not got a huge amount of pressure on it. So you are expecting him to sort of continue the level, maybe even free up a little bit into the run-in. Remember, tops of the groups will run into 4ths from the groups once we get into the last 64 draw, as Ross Dunn has done very, very well to make it this far.
Yeah, sort of have the feel like he's been chasing this clearance for a few shots, but the balls keep going in. Actually got a bad angle here, because he cut this ball up to the corner. The white's naturally coming down the table, which is what he needs, because he's going to have to come around the back of it to get position.
As he misses that yellow. Mark, I've just received a message. Would you like to know how Ross Dunn came to have funny on the back of his shirt? This is a belter. Ross Dunn's nickname is a mistake. It was meant to be Dunny, but he didn't realise it had spell checked to funny until he received the shirt. Which is just spectacular, really. And I can only imagine the amount of stick that he had to take when he unveiled that for the first time. That's brilliant. Shout out to Jonathan Coleman, a member of that Wales team I was mentioning a few moments ago, who's enlightened me with that story.
Fair play to him for committing to it as well. I think other people might have had the shirt corrected and made again, but he's just carried on.
Well, fair play to him. Yeah, he's owned it. It's the sort of thing that if you're at the right age at the right moment, that sort of thing can follow you around for a long, long time. That. I've got a friend who I was at a wedding recently, surname of Windmill. When he was a teenager, his friends used to call him Dean Windass, because that's how teenage brains work. And anyway, he's just known as Dean now. That's all his friends from home call him. His first name's Ryan. Was at his wedding, and he's getting chants of Dino. Just how silly the human and indeed the male mind can be sometimes.
Must be about 50-50 with the nicknames here. Some are like really well thought through, where people have been told they need a nickname and they've sought advice, they've tested out some alternatives, and others it's some random moment of their life and the nickname has just stuck.
Anyway, Ross Fun is not having much fun here against Scott Gillespie.
No, he was having a lot of fun when he started out that clearance, but just came up short on the final ball.
That's a lovely shot, that, from Goobs. Judge that to perfection.
Been threatening to play well for a while, Scott Gillespie. He's been going through a slightly lean patch towards the end of last season. Getting a bit frustrated, I think, with a few things. But looking much better already this season. Runner-up to Tom Cousins at the British Open a few months back.
And that was as good as we've seen Scott Gillespie in an ultimate pool form.
Been incredibly consistent. His ranking over the last 4 seasons of Ultimate Pool, 13, 19, 19, 14. Just always been there or thereabouts, just inside or just outside the top 16. Suddenly this first frame's become quite important because Ross had a good chance. Turned it over and actually Scott's pulled out a really good clearance.
Man, it's had the air of the sort of confident clearance you get when you know you're playing well. You've got something to play for and that little bit of pressure's off.
Well, bar the position of the 8 ball, he'll be very happy with this break. The 8 ball finishing there has just made it a bit awkward because the Reds, which are otherwise pretty well situated, it's just got that one awkward one. Will go down to the corner, and in fact he may be on it now, but I don't think there's any way he'd be wanting to take that as the first shot. You can see the players that have been out in this arena at least once or twice before, just a lot more comfortable with the timing. People out here for the first time tend to freeze when they hear those pips going behind them. It's just pretty calm there. Hit the ball on 1 second, but didn't look flustered by the timing.
No, and you wouldn't exactly call him a regular, but he's been far from a stranger to this environment. He obviously played for Wales on the big stage over the last few years, with the arena, with the noises and all the rest of it. Made a few appearances in the Pairs Cup as well. So he's au fait. And probably not quite as familiar as someone like a Scott Gillespie. He spent an awful long time in this arena specifically, but yeah, he's not going to be daunted, I think, by the sort of the bright lights, if you like, Ross Dunn.
Played the right shot there, had to get after that ball where he was on it. Couldn't possibly play it as the first shot, had to make sure he got the nomination of Reds, but tried to play it second. Just didn't quite look confident, seemed to be a bit tentative on it. Not quite right, he's going to have to, well, the only way he can pop this yellow would be top right. If he was absolutely dead straight on it, actually wouldn't be the most difficult combination shot to play, but a bit of angle, I don't know if he's going to love that. do though. Does he play a safe white and try and... He's played for the combo, but it's not come off. Always knew he was going to leave Ross in amongst the reds if he missed. So this is a really good chance now for Ross.
Yeah, it is. And even early on, these are the chances you feel have to go.
Always got to get good position on as the middle of the three at the bottom of the table. Might squeeze past the 8 ball, but it's tight. Ideally wants to be on it to play it to the corner, which sounds easy, but it's not got a ton of space to get really perfectly on it. That's pretty good. Just needed to get on it in such a way that he had an angle to drift over for the other ball that's on the left-hand side. Pretty good. He's done that cue ball is rolling one turn further to the right. Really got an angle where he's going to be able to get close. If he plays the ball bottom first, hard to get good shape on the one at the top. You have to commit to the one at the top and just play the slightly more difficult pot first. It was only the fact that he was having to play a reasonably accurate positional shot. There was nothing really difficult about that pot, but just had to get the cue ball over towards the left again. You always just felt the way those balls were sitting, although they sort of looked quite easy, that getting on the third from last red was just never going to be super simple. And yet again, the table turned over for Scott. Second chance in the frame is always the easier one. The way when you're a top-ranked player and you're in form, people start making silly mistakes against you. He's earned the right to have people make mistakes against him by being a top player for a long time. Yielding some benefit from that. Just so effortless. Not been a particularly difficult clearance, but like you were saying, just playing with a lot of freedom.
Just looks so confident, doesn't he?
It's a lovely position to be in. Some days the game can seem so difficult, but when you're in this kind of form, it all seems so easy. Oh, that was worth it. Good hit on the pack. Ball down. At the first glance, these have come out really well. Again, this is the kind of thing that happens when you're cueing well. You just seem to not have to hit the brake so hard, but you hit it a bit smoother. And Ross is just going to be sitting in his seat thinking, what's the way into this match? He knows it's a match he needs to win. Even though he's only on 1 from 3 in the group, he's actually not in bad shape to qualify still.
Yeah.
Would love to get something out of this match.
Yeah, far from over this one in terms of group qualification for Ross Dunn.
Could still come through even if he loses here, but definitely going to be relying on other results if that's the case. You'd always rather have it in your own hands. Of course, everyone's perception of a good weekend is going to be very different here.
Yeah.
Likes for Scott Gillespie, anything other than winning the group or coming very close to is going to be a bad result. For other players, scraping through and qualifying would be a kind of win in itself for them.
And also, once you're in the last 64, you're into that knockout territory, and you know you can dream big.
Well, sometimes you only need a good draw. You can sneak through a couple of rounds. You can find your form.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 clearances weren't so difficult in the sense that Ross had moved a few of the balls, but he really hasn't done anything wrong so far. It's just been inch perfect with pretty much every shot he's played.
Just love that creativity there from Goobsy. It's just so good to see. And you can tell how well executed that shot was, because look at the finish now. Just really well judged, the vision to see that. And then an archetypal Scott Gillespie finish. Stun shots. Cue through the ball, nice and simple.
You're right there about how that vision kind of comes and goes. You'd think a top player, once they had it, would always have it, but some days it just seems that bit easier. So 3-0 down. Ross really wants to get something out of this frame.
Cracking break. Oh, he's red to nice.
Yeah, this is what he wants, isn't it? Just a nice, simple run out. Not too much to think about. Both colours pretty good, but red surely the choice.
The only reason you're not forced, but you choose to go red, is just that yellow on the right side rail. It's a problem you don't need to have. Just reminded of the story of his nickname there, don't mind me.
Every time he turns around, you're going to be off again.
It's just so good. It's so good, that.
How many nicknames do start as mistakes? I don't think it's as uncommon as it seems.
No, I don't think
People
so.
mishear things. Taking these nicely. These were well situated, but got to stay in position. These ones at the bottom of the table, if you're in the right position, are going to be really easy because you can play one after another, these two balls bottom left. But yeah, I understand why he went after it, because I think you could slip out of position, but he didn't ultimately play that with a great deal of confidence. He probably knew deep down he should take the ball at the top of the table. The sort of basic premise you're always taught is to take the balls in zones, don't leave an orphaned ball at one end of the table. So now I've got to play a longer pot. Back in prime position again now.
Yeah, cued that one beautifully.
Now he will be happy that he's taken the one bottom left, because it's much easier only having one there. He can just play that and play for position on the 8 ball. Alternating good shot, bad shot in the last couple. This is all right, but he's going to get the cue ball back over the same side of the table it is now. So
Yeah, it just didn't need to be this awkward, did it? But he's okay. Yeah. Again. Didn't need to be that awkward, but he's all right. This is missable, though. Out of the pocket. Oh, by hook or by crook. Ross Funny Dunn gets out against Scott Gillespie.
good clearance from Ross in the last frame, but unsurprisingly, Scott Gillespie straight back at it in the next frame. He'd love, obviously, to have kept his opponent frozen on 0 for as long as possible, but can't really begrudge that last frame. Breaking clearance from Ross. Wasn't that Scott did anything wrong. Yet to really make any mistakes so far in this match. That's not bad. In fact, he may have a path through to the ball over the top left-hand corner, which would be a real result. It was always going to be hard coming into the red from that side. He was never really going to get the white, the north side of it, which he'd ideally have liked. Be happy enough to have got it in open play at least.
Well, if he has got route to the one over the top left corner pocket, yeah, I had to turn it a little, but I think he'll be overall pretty pleased. Just the way he had to play that meant the cue ball was going to stop on the top cushion. Yeah, he can't quite believe that's how it's finished, but it's the one thing we notice, isn't it, that it can trap on the cushions. It doesn't bounce, it just kills it stone dead. And because he had to turn it, all that check that was on the cue ball just died off the top cushion.
Oh,
but
recovery.
just recover with a offset plant along the top rail, Scott. You don't worry about trap cushions, mate. You're fine.
He really is looking good, isn't he? I think we've seen a lot of good performances on this table. This is probably the most dominant. Tom Cousins was also pretty good in the very first match of the day, but this has maybe had a slightly higher degree of difficulty to a few of the shots.
Oh, just cue ball on a string. Really, he's played a couple of shots like that so far in this opening 4 frames of Scott Gillespie, and he just looks dead sharp. Really does. This is the form we saw in the British Open. This was where he looked like that killer that he was in 2019 when he was winning everything.
Right now, if you wants to pick winners from the people we've seen, he'd have to be right up there.
100%.
He's going to play another shot here, but you don't see a problem. He's going to take the cue ball across the table and get back over to the right-hand side. Just cueing so smoothly at the moment.
Yeah, beautiful.
Fairly routine shot for a top pro, but still, if you're not playing well, you don't always get the timing right. At that time, you just knew he was going to get in prime position.
Yeah, it's an unquantifiable thing, but it's something that you intrinsically and innately get.
So good clearance from the break in his last attempt. Can you repeat that? Well, similar break, not a similar result though.
Tricky leave. That's the only thing he's got going for him. It's not much to go on mind because Scott Gillespie's chewing these up as if they're not particularly tricky.
This will be interesting to see. This is his first time, sort of first visit clearance from an awkwardish position. Last couple of frames came from misses from Ross that let Scott in later in the frame. This time all the balls still on the table. Red's generally looking better because of the yellow that's tied up on the right. A bit rushed there, so wasn't able to think too much about that shot, but knew it didn't matter too much. As long as he potted that ball, he always had the save over the top left-hand corner. 2 balls to the left of the 8 ball can be made into a plant. It's just a case of negotiating that area and not tying the second one up. Plus, at some stage, it's going to open up a path for the black, whether it's a double or clear the path altogether. That's why he doesn't fancy going after the clearance just yet.
Again, it's just clear thinking.
And it must be the right thing to do when you're playing an opponent who's under a bit of pressure, knows he needs to win the match, and is behind. No point letting them back in an easy clearance. be worse from Ross's point of view. Didn't make quite the contact he was looking for, but White's gone into a moderately awkward spot. So, unexpected foul from Scott Gillespie. Ball in hand for Ross, but obviously the one big problem at this end of the table. Does he want to go straight after this? If you're confident, you probably set yourself up some kind of shot with the ball in hand to get straight into that cluster.
Extension called.
So he's going to come into it off 2 cushions. Well, that's turned out nice. Didn't really know quite where that yellow was going, but the reds have stayed where they are. The yellow's popped into open play. Mixed result on the 8 ball. Could be worse. Could easily have tied it up. So, got to take the positives that it's in play still. This is a frame that he absolutely needs. 5-1 down, the way Scott's playing, it's going to be as good as over. If he can just get it to 4-2, just give himself a glimmer of hope. It's also worth saying, of course, that even though Ross has had a few matches out in this main table, it's not loads, so he's going to have friends and family watching him in this match, perhaps in a way that some of the top players won't so much because they do it more often. Obviously wants to put on a good show. He's got that one clearance from the break to add to his personal highlights reel. Just apologising there, just miscued that, came across the top of the ball, that could have gone wrong. We see a few pros watching on, Andy Williams, Tom Cousins, Chris Day, a couple of Ross's Welsh teammates, and Andy and Tom. It's a good recovery shot, had to play that from more distance. Just half a turn away from being in prime position on either of these yellows, but still got a shot at both. If he was dead straight on the ball to the right centre, he could have just popped it in and held for the yellow that he's playing now. He's going to have to go the other way. The only reason he didn't love this was that it's hard to get really good position on the 8 ball. You can certainly play for a double though, which surely has to be the option from here.
Lovely shot, but still an 8 ball.
This double's about as easy as you can leave a double on a pool table. Good stuff from Ross Dunn. He's come under some heavy pressure. He's playing an opponent at the absolute top of his game. He's done exactly the same thing every time. He's obviously been working on it, just trying to get a little bit more consistency. It's yielding some good results so far. He's getting very clean contact on the pack. That time he's got really good movement as well. Pretty much all the balls in the top half of the table. Do himself a real favour if he can just clear up off the break here. Gives him a nice 3-frame cushion, makes it easy to close the match out. Does in theory only have the one break of serve so far, so if he was to let slip this frame, it would be his opponent breaking next. In his head, Ross will be writing this frame off because Scott has done nothing to give the impression that going to make a mistake. He's either gone for the clearance or he's bailed out of the clearance early on. He's not chasing after anything at all this match.
Don't think there's been a point where he's gone for a clearance and not got it either.
No, that's a skill, isn't it? You don't have to go for every clearance, but when you go for them, you've got to make sure you get them.
Yeah, he's been clinical. Made one safety error in the last frame, fouling in a tactical exchange. Other than that, pretty perfect when he's been at the table.
Both of these players' last match of the evening. Pretty busy day. Both played 4 matches already. We're going to take a bit of a break and then back tomorrow for their final group games. Still plenty more to come tonight. We've got 2 more matches coming up after this one. Fraser Allen takes on Sean Chipperfield next. Clayton Castaldi, Tom Jones, the last match of the night. Feels like it's quite a fitting last match of the night, doesn't it? It was a fun one with those 2 involved.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll take us on home for sure. Scott's last game in Group 6 coming up tomorrow. He's up against Christy Caulfield. He's already beaten Ben Doyle 6-2, Carl Morris 6-5, which feels almost fitting, really. Those 2 only ever have close matches. And yeah, currently 4-2 up on Ross Dunn. But he faces Christy Caulfield tomorrow in his final match. Scott Gillespie, if he wins this, I think he'd be pretty certain of topping the group, although that is his first mistake in open table. That is a wide. There's not been any of them in this match from Scott Gillespie. He's been so consistent, so meticulous, so solid in his potting. That one has come a little out of nowhere.
Other results going his way to top the table. Christy Caulfield is probably the most likely challenger for the top spot. 5-3 down to Ben Doyle at the moment.
Yeah, and I think if that comes through, then Scott's pretty much guaranteed to top the table. He's already a result clear of Christy without this round of matches. So if Scott were to win here and Christy were to lose, I think Scott tops the table regardless, and he would play a 4th place in the round of 64.
Anybody that's watched him play today is not going to be queuing up for that task.
Quite right.
It's not done here though, and it's a good chance for Ross Dunn. Not really any obvious problems on the table. The only real problem is the pressure he's under of being 4-2 down in a match that he needs to win. Surely only going to grow in confidence as the match continues. Early on, you're sometimes worried you're not going to give a good account of yourself on the main table. Silly thoughts creep in of just trying to get that first frame on the board. But now he's got a couple already. Pretty well warmed up. No problem with the last 2 yellows. He's going to have a flexible angle on the ball to the left middle to get the cue ball anywhere he wants. What that 8 ball is just a little bit awkward. It's in a very open space, but to get really nicely on it isn't going to be super easy. So it's all on this shot. Gonna have to make this 8 ball as easy as he could for himself. Position where this 8 ball is not unmissable. It's one of those ones you're always going to get in the jaws of the pocket, but very easy to rattle the jaws. Got to commit fully. There's no way you can play this with any element of safety. And commit fully he does. Good clearance in the end from Ross Dunn. once you're in that sort of second, third place, there's maybe not actually going to be a huge difference, but more often than not, it will be the qualifiers scrabbling around, or maybe one of the lesser ranked pros. 8 ball almost down, stays on the table. Another ball has gone down. Sometimes the 8 ball hanging over the pocket can be quite a problem for the progression of the frame. It's not so much of an issue here because there aren't any other balls really close to it. I assume he's going to want to go reds here, given that the only ball that is near the 8 ball is that yellow over on the right hand cushion. And this is what can happen. As well as Scott Gillespie has played in this match, he's now facing a position where his opponent's only one clearance away from levelling up. This has been the pattern of so many of the matches we've seen today. One player's got off to a good start. Like Craig Waddingham earlier on, you're saying there's only one winner here, and then suddenly you find you've got a match in your hands. Certainly been getting our money's worth. Pretty much every match on this table has had some moments of tension and finished up pretty close. But a good shot there, loading up with a lot of side. To come the top side of the red that the cue ball's closest to was pretty tough from where he was. Doesn't look like there's too much to worry about here. Just needs to draw the cue ball back. Top left corner. Well, don't quite have the space. Maybe it's just slightly off angle. You may have to come down the table first. Ideally, you'd think you'd have wanted to clear the one at the top of the table, but this way will work fine as well. What he's going to make sure he does here is get a clean strike on this ball. Doesn't want to just cue across it and have the cue ball drifting off towards the right hand side of the table. Anywhere just back in a straight line is absolutely fine.
Cool. That is a bit of a let-off.
Well,
he had a lot of room for error there, Ross Dunn. Shouldn't have been anywhere near that yellow.
He doesn't care about that though, he just wants to get this match closed out. No golden break, so hence why no celebration. The 8 ball's just going to be re-spotted.
Rocketed into that top corner, didn't it? I mean, what a break it is. Absolute hammer. He has got a real penchant for a golden break, as Scott Gillespie. We have more of them than most, and it's rare you see him cut breaking as well, which makes it even almost stranger that he has said knack for pocketing the 8 ball.
8 ball going down hasn't really changed much here. It's still an open play. Now it's been re-spotted.
I mean, this is just a case of picky poison, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's only taking the time because he knows he's let slip a couple of chances now. Doesn't want to do it again. It's a ball to the left of the cue ball that he's got to be a bit careful with. It's going to come into play again when he pots this ball. Slipped past it this time.
Yeah, perfect. Now you feel like he's in, don't want to put the jinxes on him, but he's in hold yourself together territory.
Yeah, these link up nicely. Go right centre. Ball to the top left. That can go in a number of different ways. Looks like that's the choice there as time's running out. Himself just off straight, the ball down the left hand side last, get position on the 8 ball. That's absolutely fine. Ross Dunn keeps being asked the question in this match. So far, it's just about coming up with enough answers to stay in it. No mistake this time from Scott Gillespie. Big, powerful break. Good clearance to follow it up. And Doyle on 2 from 4. Good news, bad news. Ball down, but 2 clusters. When you're in this position where you just need the frame to get back to a decider, you just really want to be able to go for a clearance. I'm not sure he's going to be able to talk himself into that being the right idea. Wants to pot that first ball for choice of colour, but surely going to bail out now. Both players have played a fairly measured game, played the right shots at the right times. Same position really for Scott. 2 clusters on the table, so no great reason to be chasing after any pots here. He can't see enough of the ball to the middle. Can pot that first if he wants to, but you feel like at some point he's got to be looking for the containing shot. Well, that isn't the containing shot he wanted at all, because not only has he left a pot onto the left centre, but he's left it with exactly the angle to cannon into the 2 balls that are tied up. And again, query whether Ross really wants to be going for this, because there's problems at the bottom of the table. Well, that's not actually that bad. He's ended up the wrong side of the ball. He was trying to stay low on it, but he's dropped behind it in a way that does give him options. If he wants to go attacking, he can play this ball the length of the table down the cushion. Good pot. He's kind of committed now to this clearance. He's going to have to play the plant. Playing the plant, he's going to cannon into the red, which is going to bump the other yellow out. This has all come from that very loose containing shot that Scott played.
Well, are we going to another hill decider on this table, Mark? Oh, well. I'd like to retract my question, Your Honour.
No, not yet, sir. Keep the question in your head. He's going to be disappointed with that. That was a good spot. It's just got a bit tentative with that last one.
Big shot, this. Oh, it's a great effort. He's actually a little unlucky. Couldn't have played that much better.
That was almost perfect. Almost perfect. It's no good though, because all the reds are now open.
Yeah, there was no room there to be almost perfect.
Oh, what fine margins this game is. Look at his face, tells you everything. So frustrating sitting down watching your opponent clear up when you could have sneaked the frame. had gone to a decider, Scott would maybe have felt a little bit aggrieved. He probably has just been the class of the two players. But Ross Dunn has certainly played his part.
Yeah, not been too far back, which, considering for certainly the first half of this match, Scott played brilliantly. It's pretty good going, really, for Ross Dunn, I would suggest.
Not looking quite as fluent as he did at the beginning. Earlier on, Scott just seemed to naturally see every shot. He's doing the right thing here, of course. This is an important frame. Just taking a little bit longer to settle himself. The way these balls are, it's absolutely his to lose, and he knows that. He wins this frame bar any mistakes. Ross Dunn has got one match left after this, which is going to be against Carl Morris tomorrow. It's out of contention because he could end up finishing with the same point score as Carl. Just looking at the league table though, he's got quite a frame difference deficit. Going to need some of the results to go his way, you'd feel. Gillespie 3 balls away now from guaranteeing his place at the top of the Group 6 table. If it would have been 5-2 or 5-3 up, he'd have cleared these balls up long ago. Just the fact that we would be going to a decider, he's been far more measured in his pace around the table.
Yeah, super stuff from Scott Gillespie. Has played some good stuff in this game. And he continues his unbeaten run in this European Open. Scott Gillespie looking very, very good indeed. He is 4 from 4 on day 1 of the European Open, and he will top the group heading into the last 64.